All right, welcome to this video about Lightroom CC. We're going to cover some of the selective editing tools, two of them in this video. We're going to talk about the radial filter and the graduated filter. So we're going to head over, we don't need the edit panel right now, so we're just going to head over on the right-hand side of Lightroom CC window. There, near the bottom, there's a radial gradient, and right above that is the linear gradient. So we're going to use the radial gradient first. And here's what we're going to do. If you watch the previous video about vignetting, basically it lets you create a spotlight. But you can't control its position. It's always around the center. What a radial gradient lets you do is position it exactly where you want it, which is helpful if your subject isn't, or the object you want to use it on isn't exactly in the middle of the photo. So let's show you how this works and why I'm going to use it on this photo. So in this photo, as I took the portrait here of Paul, I didn't quite get the exposure exactly the way I wanted it. The background's a little brighter than I want. So what I would love to have happen is for the background to get darker, but his face especially to stay the same. There's a couple ways you can do this. You could use the brush tool and brush in the background. Brush, 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 do a whole bunch of brushing just in the background and then change the exposure there. That takes too long. Let's do it faster. So the radial gradient, what that does is it's gonna draw a circle shape, an oval shape, an ellipse, where we can still apply those same edits and controls that we can with the brush tool, but in just a limited area and much more quickly to create. So let me show you how this works. So you're gonna click, so you'll notice when you, don't click yet, you're gonna notice you get a crosshair when you turn this on, your cursor's active. And what you do is you position this in about the center of the object you wanna apply this to. So it's gonna be Paul's head. So the center of most heads is right around the nose somewhere. So I'm just gonna click, hold, and what it's going to do is draw an oval shape, an ellipse, from the center out. So I'm going to click and hold, and you noticed nothing changed. The reason nothing changed is because I didn't apply any edits before, I didn't apply any of the controls before I drew the tool. Before I drew the radial, that's what it's called. So I'm just going to reposition this a little bit. I'm just going to click on that center dot. Now I'm going to apply some changes. So I'm going to get the exposure. We're going to go darker. And you'll see it's getting darker outside of Paul's head. How cool is that? So it's super fast way to adjust that. Again, think of this, we're painting with attention. We want people to see, with a portrait especially, you want the focus to be on the face. And anything that pulls away from that, either with brightness or color or sharpness, will draw from that. So I've dealt with the brightness with exposure. Let's maybe go to saturation down here at the bottom of this panel, and let's go negative down there. Now I don't want to go here because that's going to look fake, but I'm just going to take a little of the saturation out there. And that'll, again, put more color on his face, again, creating more layers of contrast to pay attention to his face. The radial filter has some controls that go with it. It has a feather, so the softness of the edge. So that's 0 feather, which probably don't want to do. And then maximum feather will be a very, very soft edge. You can see the softness of the edge. Again, if you put your mouse over that center point of the filter, it will show you in red where the filter is being applied. And you can see it's pretty much red all the way even into his face now. Just a tiny little portion of his face is protected. So I usually leave the feather at around 50 on this tool. It's just easy. All right, so that's the starting point for the radial filter. When you're using it in this mode, it's applying the filter effects outside of the shape where you drew the filter. It's kind of hard to do this with more than one filter because you have to think about how they're laying when they're affecting outside. So hang on to that thought for a minute. Let's do another photo. And since it's been a little while, what I thought I'd do on this photo is kind of walk you through the basic edits first, and then we'll do the filter last. So we'll do this kind of quick. On this photo of my son's dog Keanu nesting in his throne area, there's some things I want to address. Again, I want to pull attention. What do you want to look at? You want to look at his face. Well, his face is really dark, so that's going to get the filter last. That's be the last thing I do. The crop, I need to crop this. The framing isn't great because on the right-hand side, I've got a gap. At the top, I've got a little bit of the window bar, so I want to shrink that. Also the grass outside is really a bright and saturated green. I'm going to deal with that. So let's walk through this real quick. Let's go to the what's this called? The edit panel. And first here, we're going to use the crop tool actually. And I'm just going to click up here in the top right and pull down, get it kind of positioned the way I want. And then I'm going to and then I'm just going to reposition this by clicking and holding, and we'll put the face right in the center. Got still a little bit of the window over here on the top right, so I'll just pull down just a little bit more and reposition again. So once I've got that where I like, I just click on the Enter key, the Return key, and we're good there. Most of the exposure is pretty good. With the light, I'll maybe open the shadows just a little bit. That'll help bring out his face a bit, but not. I don't want to go here. That's where I want his face to be. But now the pillows that are kind of surrounding the cushions, they're too bright. So I don't have enough contrast. So I'll just go a little brighter there. And then in the color mixer, in the color panel, what I want to do is address the green grass outside. So I'm going to click on the green color, and I'm going to take the saturation and reduce that. So see, I don't want to go to fully black and white, but I'll just nudge it down. Also going to take the luminance, which is the exposure of that color. In this case, it's the green. I'm going to reduce that. Our eyes go wherever it's brightest in a photo. So I don't want the grass to be the brightest thing. I'll do a little bit on the yellow as well, because there is some yellow in that grass. You would think there's yellow in Keanu's fur, but there's not too much. It's mostly reds and orange. So that helps that. If I want to see what it looks like without that color mixer change, I can just click on this little switch, and it'll show me without the change, and there's with. So I've just toned the grass down outside. All right, so those are, let's do one more thing. Let's do our new Vignette Tool, and we're gonna darken those corners just a little bit. That'll darken down this bright spot down on the lower right of the cushion, and just give a little containment into the middle. All right, let's turn on the Radial Filter. And what I'm gonna do this time is I wanna brighten Keanu's face. So I'm gonna go ahead, and before I draw the filter, draw the filter, I'm going to increase my exposure. Now, nothing is changing in the photo because I haven't drawn the filter yet. I haven't placed it yet. So I'm just going to go to about +1 on exposure. I'm also going to probably open the shadows a little bit. So we'll just get started there. All right, so now I'm going to click and draw on Keanu's face, and whoa, what happened? Well, here's what happened. This filter is in invert mode right now, which means it's applying the change outside. So I need to uncheck invert, turn that off. It's right underneath the feather. And now when the change is happening outside the filter. So if I click on this, the change is happening inside. I want to make his face brighter. I like the outside, but I want to brighten up his face. So there we go. Brighten up his face just a little bit. And there we go, a little more, just a little bit. So now the first thing you see on this photo is Keanu's face. So did a quick edit on that. Here's before. Look at how his face is so dark. Here's after. You can see his face lots better. This tool is so cool for this kind of stuff, especially faces, round things, flowers. There's a landscape photographer I follow on YouTube named Thomas Heaton. He will use this on landscapes, and he'll just draw kind of thin pizza shaped, saucer shaped radial filters. and use those to adjust exposures in certain parts of his images. It's kind of cool. All right, one more photo here. We're going to do a combo on this photo. We're going to use a, well, actually, we're just going to use the radial filter first, and we'll come back and add the graduated filter, the linear gradient, last. I keep using the wrong name. I'm so used to calling these by the names from Lightroom Classic. This is called the radial, what's it called? The radial gradient, and the other one's called the linear gradient. They're called the radial filter, linear filter, graduated filter. Sorry, I apologize. All right, so let's do this photo real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that already. So in this photo, what I want to do is darken everything but Kate's face in this photo. So her face has got the right exposure, so I'm going to darken everything just like we did on the first photo. So I'm going to go to my radial. I'm going to go to exposure and go a little negative. And let's just draw on her face again. Now, remember, it's drawing inside right now, so I have to invert that. So now it's happening outside her face, like we did on Paul's photo. So depending on which way you want to go, and the simple thing is, if it's not doing what you want, come up here and check that which way the invert is. If it's checked, that means it's happening inside the filter. If it's unchecked, it means it's happening outside. Just click it till it looks the way you want, okay? So that's super quick and easy. Her head's a little tilted, so if you want to rotate this filter so it matches that a little better, you can just click outside by just a little bit, hold and drag, and you can rotate the orientation of the filter. Pretty quick and easy. There we go on that. So that's a quick run through of the radial gradient. Let's show you the linear one next. So I'm going to work on this skyline photo of Seattle, and just like with the dog, the Keanu photo, what I want to do before I do the linear gradient is get this photo in a better shape than it currently is. Just a quick refresher on some of the basic editing tools. So let's head up to the edit panel, and this photo is kind of gray, so I got gray photos, and I want more drama, excuse me, I can't talk today. I'm going to turn up the contrast. So I'm just going to turn up the contrast slider till it looks good. I'm at about, what am I at? 45 or 6. Highlights and whites and shadows I'll probably leave alone for now. Blacks, I'll probably pull that down. That will also add some drama, so minus 30 or so. And then color, the color temperature, which way do we want to go? It was a cool day. You know, I don't want it to feel like a summer day. It was a winter day. I do want it to feel a little dramatic, so I'll probably pull that a little to the left. I might take the tint also to the left just to add a little green instead of the pink. Again, cool and cool. Vibrance, I'm going to go ahead and turn that up a little bit just to add some of that color back in. And saturation, I'll leave alone. All right, let's go down to the color mixer. We've got our exposure we can play with. We've only got really blues in here, so do you want to make the blue more green, or you want to make the blue more purple? I'll probably leave it with the hue where it is. Saturation, I might turn the saturation up just a little bit, and the luminance, I'll probably leave alone. I'm not going to play with the purple or the cyan. All right, let's go down to effects. Going kind of quick on this. If you don't know what I'm doing here and you want a review of the basic edits, watch the video about basic edits in Lightroom. All right, down in the effects panel, texture, I do like texture. It adds texture, adds some, it helps separate the edges a little bit. So it's gonna put more definition on the water and on the building. So I'll turn that up in this photo to about 50. Clarity, gonna make everything more crunchy, more gritty. I do kind of like that. I'm gonna turn that up to about 30 on this photo. I generally don't turn it up that high. And then dehaze, watch this. If you've got clouds in your photo and you want to see them in some more detail on the clouds, the dehaze is your friend. So watch this. So I'm turning it way up, and that's way too much. But what I'm noticing is I kind of like it how it's playing out in the clouds. It's a little too much here, and it's obviously way too much on the city and that. So that makes me think, ooh, if I could just limit that effect to the clouds, I'd be in good shape for this photo. So I'm just going to turn dehaze up just a little bit, plus 10 or 20 on this photo. Of course, going to throw in some vignette, about minus 8 or 10. You can see how dramatic the vignette is because the corners are so light already that if I do very much, it becomes a little too much. All right, so I've got our photo where I want. Now let's add, I want to change the sky. I want to add some more drama to the sky because it's right now you don't see everything that was really there. So we're going to use the linear gradient for that. It's on the right-hand side, third tool from the bottom. So I'm going to click on that. And this works like the radial filter and the brush tool, the radial gradient, excuse me, and the brush tool. You've got all these controls you have that you can edit with, and they're from the basic panel, they're from effects, and some of the color tools as well. So what I want to do for sure, I know I want to darken the sky, so I'm going to go to the top of this, and I'm going to take my exposure before I do anything else. I'm just going to dial it in to about -1. It's just a good starting point. It's enough I can see what I'm doing. I can edit the amount of this later. I'll probably turn the contrast up just a little bit to get me started, and I'm just going to start there. Okay. Drawing the area for the radial the linear gradient is a little tricky to see how it works. So I'm just going to start and then I'll walk you through how it works. So here's how this filter works. You click and hold from where you want the filter to have most effect, and as you want it to gradually go in the direction it's going to go away, disappear, okay? Graduate away. All right, so let me draw it and you can see better. So I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to pull down. So I clicked, and that creates a center point, and now I've got 3 lines. And you can see it's darker at the top, and it gradually fades to disappear at the bottom. So I'm just going to let go now, and then I'm going to talk through what I've got here. So that middle line with the blue dot in the center, that's the center point, and that's the 50% point. That means the filter is at its 50% strength at that line. When you get to the top line, because I drew from the top down, the line that's closest to the direction you started from, that means anything above that line is 100% of this effect, which would be exposure and contrast so far. And then the bottom line means anything below that has none of the filter. So in this area from the top to the bottom, it's graduating from 100% to 0%. And you can have a bigger area of graduation by just stretching this, or smaller by collapsing it. So once I've drawn the tool, I have lots of options to change it. I can change the area it covers. I can change the rotation by just putting my mouse right above or below that center line, and I can rotate this side to side. Maybe I want it to look like it's coming more from that area. But I just want to do the clouds for now. I can change the area by clicking on and dragging on one of the top or bottom lines, and then expanding or collapsing this. So I'm gonna go with a relatively small area, and then click and hold and drag this down. So basically, anything above this 50% line and then above the 100%, that's getting all the filter, all of this stuff. We'll turn up a little bit of clarity. I'm being a little over dramatic here just so you can see it easily. We'll add a little texture as well. Maybe a little more blue in the sky up there. No, not blue. Let's see. Let's go. Let's leave it alone. Sometimes you think that might be a good idea, and then you try it and it's like, nope, not a good idea. So I've really dramatized the city here. And sometimes, and I'm noticing now as I've done this edit, is now the city skyline is a little dark. So I'm going to click on the edit tools and just go to the shadow slider. And I'm just going to turn the shadows up. And that's mostly going to affect the city skyline here. Not so much up here. Okay. So that is the the linear gradient tool. So you can see if I put my mouse over it, it'll show you in that red overlay where the filter is applied 100% and where it fades out. So here's the before photo. Gray and boring. More drama. It's a little too much, but I kind of like it. Sometimes I like to be dramatic. All right, I want to show you one more way to use this tool, and that's on this going back to this portrait photo. In the top left up here, it's a little bright. There's a parking lot over there and some asphalt and concrete and stuff, so it's kind of a bright spot. And it pulls your attention away from the face I want you to see. So what I want to do is darken that quickly, and the linear gradient is a fast way to do that. So I'm just going to take before I draw the filter, I'm just going to take my exposure to -1-ish, and I'll probably drop the highlights and shadows and whites a little bit and the blacks. And then I'm just going to start up here. So I want it to apply from the top left corner. So I'm going to start at the top left corner, click, hold, drag, and reposition to taste. It's a little too much. I don't want it to be super obvious. Put the shadows back, yeah. So pull down the whites and highlights and exposure just a little bit. So yeah, I think that works better. So there's before and after with those filters. Yeah, so hopefully you can see how quick that was. So I did all the edits in the edit panel, and then 2 quick additional edits on one to make her face just everything around her face darker, which has the effect of making her face relatively brighter. Darken that corner with the linear one, and good to go. Much faster than using a brush to try and do these things. All right, so that's a quick tour of the radial gradient and the linear gradient in Lightroom CC. If you have questions, leave comments below or send me an email. I'll be glad to help you out. These tools are super powerful, they're super fast, and they let you, again, shape attention in photos, which is how photos become more interesting. Hope you find that helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I got one little more video here in Lightroom CC. I'm going to show you a special effect called selective color. It's called selective color. See you then.